two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it marks of their lotus feet. So this pastime is taking place just after the bewilderment of Lord Brahma, Brahma Vimohan Leela. Lord Brahma stealing the the calves and cowherd boys. And by Lord Brahma's calculation of one moment, actually an entire year passed, and as will be described here, seeing the growth of Krishna and Balaram, the cowherd men headed by Nandamaj, confirmed upon them the responsibility to take care of the full-grown cows and bulls. Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd boyfriends who had been swallowed by Aghasura and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore, the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Talavan, where there are many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nandamaj, decided to promote Krishna from the task of herding calves to the status of regular cowherd boy. So it's describing in this verse that Krishna and Balaram rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. So in other words, when you're taking care of small calves, they're not going to wander all around the forests of Vrindavan. They are going to be kept very close. Practically, they're going to be penned up, because they're very small. They have to be protected. Perhaps they're not brave or courageous enough to wander very far away from their mother cow. They're going to stay close by. So the opportunity to take care of the full-grown cows and bulls is that cows and bulls, they're now grown, and they have the need and they have the desire to wander all around. So this is a boon for the land of Vrindavan, because now Krishna and Balaram, who were previously younger boys, also stayed close to home. But now, with the full-grown cows and bulls, they're wandering all over the whole tract of land of Vrindavan, from forest to forest. Out of great affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of full-grown cowherd bulls. It is stated in the Kartik Mahatmya, that's the very wonderful chapter all about Kartik, in the most pure of all the Puranas, the Padma Purana. This is the same Kartik Mahatmya where the full glories of Kartik are described. Shuklastami, Kartiketu. Smrita Gopastami Badai, Ta Dinad Vasudevo Bud, Gopa Purvam Tu Vatsapa. The 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik is known by authorities as Gopastami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd, whereas previously he had tended the calves. The word Badai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other footgear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan, who feared that his soft lotus feet would be injured. So we'll see later in the chapter Songs by the Gopis, chapter 21, how this is one of the statements or heartfelt concerns of the young gopis of Vrindavan. There is a interesting argument between Krishna and Mother Yashoda that before he is going off to tend the cows as a full-grown cowherd boy, that his mother Yashoda is practically insisting that Krishna wears shoes. And Krishna's argument as to that he's not going to wear shoes is that all of the cows and bulls that I'm taking care of, they're not wearing shoes. So if you get all of the cows and bulls to wear shoes, and Krishna makes the point that it's not just two shoes, but they're four-legged, so they have to have four shoes, two pairs of shoes, then I'll consider wearing shoes. But here, as described, ultimately, this gives Krishna the opportunity to bless the entire earth with the marks, the touch of his lotus feet. Text 2. Thus desiring to enjoy pastimes, Lord Madhava, sounding his flute, surrounded by cowherd boys who were chanting his glories, and accompanied by Lord Baladev, kept the cows before him and entered the Vrindavan forest, which is full of flowers and rich with nourishment for the animals. So this is Shukadeva Goswami telling of Krishna's pastimes. It's also important to note that many great acharyas have written of this pastime, and as it is Krishna going forth for the first time as a cowherd boy with his cowherd boyfriends and the cows and bulls, it is very, very meaningful, very, very glorious, and very, very important for devotees to relish and understand this important milestone in Krishna's pastimes, or we could say in Krishna's evolvement or development, the evolvement of the Leela, which is expanding and giving more and more opportunity for devotional service. So the purport to this verse gives a very deep and profound explanation of what Krishna's name Madhava means, and this is from Srila Sanatana Goswami. Has explained the various meanings of the word Madhava as follows. Madhava normally indicates Krishna to be the Lord, who is the consort of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. This name also implies that Lord Krishna descended in the dynasty of Madhu. Since the spring season is also known as Madhava, it is understood that as soon as Lord Krishna entered the Vrindavan forest, it automatically exhibited all the opulences of spring, becoming filled with flowers, breezes, and a celestial atmosphere. Another reason Lord Krishna is known as Madhava is that he enjoys his pastimes in Madhu, the taste of conjugal love. Lord Krishna would loudly sound his flute as he entered the forest of Sri Vrindavan, thus giving inconceivable bliss to all the residents of Brajadam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the 7th verse of his Vibhabhari Sesha, Ananda Vardhana Prema Niketana Fulasara Jojaka Kama. Krishna is the transcendental Cupid, playing on his flute, is always increasing the ecstasy of the residents of Vrindavan. These simple pastimes of playfully entering the forest, playing on the flute, and so forth, were performed daily in the spiritual land of Vrindavan. good to note that the garland should maybe come out of the refrigerator before offering it to the speaker, because especially now it's wintertime, it's freezing cold. Take note. Chapter 24 of the 9th canto, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, describes Krishna's going forth from the village of Vrindavan to tend the cows and bulls as a daily festival. Text 3. The Supreme Personality of Godhead looked over that forest which resounded with the charming sounds of bees, animals, and birds, and which was enhanced by a lake whose clear water resembled the minds of great souls, and by a breeze carrying the fragrance of 100-petaled lotuses. Seeing all this, Lord Krishna decided to enjoy the auspicious atmosphere. So as the devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, when Krishna appears, bring forth their best manifestations, so in a similar way, here we try to decorate the temple and the deities in the best possible way, and as described here, Krishna, seeing the wonderful arrangement, became very much inclined to enjoy his pastimes and to distribute his mercy, increasing the love of the residents of Vrindavan. Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Marjanado. Spiritual master engages the disciples in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. They cleanse their temple, bathe and decorate the deities, etc., etc., etc. Lord Krishna saw that the Vrindavan forest was giving pleasure to all 5 senses. The bees, birds, and animals made charming sounds that brought sweet pleasure to the ears. The wind was faithfully rendering service to the Lord by blowing throughout the forest, carrying the cool moisture of a transparent lake, and thus giving pleasure to the sense of touch. By the sweetness of the wind, even the sense of taste was being stimulated, and the fragrance of lotus flowers was bringing pleasure to the nostrils, and the entire forest was endowed with heavenly beauty, which was giving spiritual bliss to the eyes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has thus explained the significance of this verse. The primeval Lord saw that the stately trees with their beautiful reddish buds and their heavy burden of fruits and flowers were bending down to touch his feet with the tips of their branches. Thus he smiled gently and addressed his brother. Purport: the word Muda Smayan indicate that Lord Krishna was in a joking mood. He knew that the trees were actually bowing down to worship him, but in the following verse, the Lord, speaking in a friendly, light-hearted mood, gives the credit to his brother, Balaram. Could you ask who's not to ring the bell, please? Text 5. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O greatest of lords, just see how these trees are bowing their heads at your lotus feet, which are worshipable by the immortal demigods. The trees are offering you their fruits and flowers to eradicate the dark ignorance that has caused their birth as trees. Purport: the trees of Vrindavan were thinking that because of past offenses, they had now taken birth as trees, and being immovable, could not accompany Lord Krishna in his wanderings throughout the Vrindavan area. In fact, all the creatures of Vrindavan, including the trees and cows, were great souls who could personally associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because of ecstatic sentiments of separation, the trees considered themselves in ignorance and thus tried to purify themselves by bowing down at the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. Lord Krishna, understanding their mentality, simultaneously glanced at them with affection and praised their devotional service before his older brother Balaram. Text 6. O original personality, these bees must all be great sages and most elevated devotees of yours, for they are worshiping you by following you along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Though you have disguised yourself within this forest, O sinless one, they refuse to abandon you, their worshipful Lord. Report. The word Gudam is significant in this verse. It indicates that although the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of Krishna or Balaram appears like an ordinary human being within the material world, great sages always recognize the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. All the transcendental forms of Godhead are eternal and full of bliss and knowledge, exactly the opposite of our material bodies, which are temporary and full of misery and ignorance. One meaning of the word tirtha is the means for crossing beyond material existence. Simply by hearing the glories of the Supreme Lord or by chanting them, one immediately comes to the spiritual platform beyond material existence. Thus, the Lord's transcendental glories are described here as tirtha for everyone in the world. The word Gayanta indicates that great sages give up their vows of silence and other selfish processes to glorify the activities of the Supreme Lord. Real silence means not to speak nonsense, to limit one's verbal activities to those sounds, statements, and discussions relevant to the loving service of the Supreme Lord. The word Anaga indicates that the Supreme Lord never performs sinful or offensive activities. The word also indicates that the Lord immediately excuses a sin or offense committed by a sincere, loving devotee who may accidentally deviate from the Lord's service. In the specific context of this verse, the word Anaga indicates that Lord Balaram was not disturbed by the bees who were constantly following him, Anupatam. The Lord blessed them by saying, O bees, come into my confidential grove and feel free to taste its fragrance. So there's the beginning of the Dhenukasura chapter. So these verses are describing Krishna and Balaram as they begin their pastimes as cowherd boys. So in that regard, this is appropriate to be reading on this day, Gopastami. O worshipful one, these peacocks are dancing before you out of joy. These doe are pleasing you with affectionate glances, just as the gopis do, and these cuckoos are honoring you with Vedic prayers. All these residents of the forest are most fortunate, and their behavior towards you certainly befits great souls receiving another great soul at home. This earth has now become most fortunate because you have touched her grass and bushes with your feet, and her trees and creepers with your fingernails, and because you have graced her rivers, mountains, birds, and animals with your merciful glances. But above all, you have embraced the young cowherd women between your two arms, a favor hankered after by the goddess of fortune herself. The word Adya now indicates the time of Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna's appearance on the earth. In his form of Varaha, Lord Krishna personally saved the earth, and indeed the earth is understood to rest perpetually on the potency of Sesha. Both Varaha and Sesha are expansions of Balaram, who is himself an expansion of Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna's statement that this earth has now become most fortunate, Dayayam Adya Dharani, indicates that nothing can equal the blessing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal form as Krishna, appearing simultaneously with his pleasure expansion, Balaram. This is nice. Nothing can equal the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal form as Krishna. So Prabhupada's giving us Krishna in so many Archa Vigraha forms all over the world. He's giving the supreme and topmost blessing of the Lord to everyone in this world. Nothing can equal the blessings of the Lord in his personal form. The compound word karajana bhishmita, touched by your fingernails, indicates that as Krishna and Balaram would move through the forest, they would pick fruits and flowers from the trees, bushes, and creepers and use them in their pleasure pastimes. Sometimes they would break leaves off the plants and use them with the flowers to decorate their bodies. Krishna and Balaram would glance lovingly and mercifully at all the rivers, hills, and creatures in Vrindavan. But the blessing received by the gopis, being embraced directly between the Lord's arms, was the supreme benediction desired even by the goddess of fortune herself. The goddess of fortune who lives in Vaikuntha on the chest of Lord Narayan once desired to be embraced on the chest of Sri Krishna, and thus she performed severe austerities to achieve this blessing. Sri Krishna informed her that her actual place was in Vaikuntha and that it was not possible for her to dwell upon his chest in Vrindavan. Therefore, she begged Krishna to allow her to remain on his chest in the form of a golden line, and he granted her this benediction. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is again credited for recounting this incident from the Puranas. When Lord Chaitanya stayed at the home of Venkat Bhatta, where Prabodhananda Saraswati, or to be Prabodhananda Saraswati when he was much younger, had the company of Lord Chaitanya there for the 4 months of the rainy season. This was the example that Lord Chaitanya gave to convince that family that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Vishnu, as many in South India look at the other way around, that Vishnu is supreme and Krishna is the expansion. And saying, how is it that your goddess of fortune underwent such severe austerities to get the association of Krishna, and she wasn't able to because of her position as the wife of Lord Narayan in the Vaikuntha planets, her opulent lifestyle, her different attitude, etc. Lord Chaitanya used this as one of his proofs, or his main proof, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The gopis being embraced directly between the Lord's arms was the supreme benediction. So what can Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu offer compared to what Lord Krishna can offer? The benediction received from Lord Krishna or Vishnu, which one is greater? Here is another way of arriving at the same conclusion, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The supreme benediction desired even by the goddess of fortune herself. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus expressing his satisfaction with the beautiful forest of Vrindavan and its inhabitants, Lord Krishna enjoyed tending the cows and other animals with his friends on the banks of the river Yamuna below Govardhan Hill. So also on this day there are many or several very glorious appearance days of great associates of Lord Chaitanya, and in the Case of Srila Srinivasa Acharya, a very important Acharya in Lord Chaitanya's disciplic succession. Srinivasa Acharya this is from Satyaraj Prabhu's writings. Srinivasa Acharya is one of the most important personalities in Lord Chaitanya's sampradaya. Perhaps the most important Acharya in the disciplic succession immediately following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is chiefly remembered as the illustrious disciple of Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami and the Shiksha disciple of Srila Jiva Goswami. His achievements include delivering the writings of the Goswamis from Vrindavan to Bengal, converting King Birambir to Vaishnavism, and originating the Mohan Shoy style of kirtan. At Katuri, Bengal, he organized the first Gaur Pranim festival celebrating the anniversary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world, which Narottam, Shamananda, and thousands of other Vaishnavas attended. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preparing his associates for Srinivasa Acharya's arrival. He'd already written to Rupa, Sanatan, and Gopal Bhatta Goswamis requesting them to teach Srinivasa Acharya all about devotional service, and he asked Gadadhar Pandit in Jagannath Puri to teach Srinivas the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narahari Sakar advised Srinivas to see to his mother's care, where her father and brothers had moved from Chakandi. Then Srinivas was to proceed to Puri to associate with Lord Chaitanya. Srinivas asked Narahari to initiate him into the chanting of Krishna's name, but Narahari told him that Lord Chaitanya wanted him to take initiation from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Still a boy, Srinivas set out with a companion for Puri. On the way, he learned that Lord Chaitanya had left this world. Then Lord Chaitanya, along with Nityananda Prabhu, who had also passed away, appeared to Srinivas on the pretext of a dream and consoled him. The phrase, on the pretext of a dream, appears frequently in Vaishnav literature of the period and is usually taken to mean a spiritual vision. Still, Srinivas remained grief-stricken. He went to the Gopinath temple in Puri to take shelter of Gadadhar Pandit. The Pandit was overcome with separation from Lord Chaitanya, and tears always flowed from his eyes. Srinivas bowed to Sri Gadadhar's feet and introduced himself. Gadadhar Pandit became joyful. "I am glad you have come and introduced yourself," he said. Just before passing away, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told me to teach you the Bhagavatam. He knew you would arrive in Puri one day, and he asked me to explain Krishna Leela to you. Gadadhar Pandit's joy, he could now fulfill his order of the Lord and again turned to sadness. "I cannot teach you Bhagavatam at this time, O young Srinivas," he said, "for the manuscript in my possession has become illegible from the tears I have cried onto its pages." Srinivas touched the sacred book to his head and felt ecstasy arise within himself. Nonetheless, the problem of studying the book that had been rendered illegible remained, but Sri Gadadhar and Srinivas would not be swayed from their purpose. The will of Mahaprabhu could not be obstructed. Sri Gadadhar sent a message to Narahari Sakar in Bengal asking him to secure another manuscript of Srimad Bhagavatam. Narahari replied that another copy was available and that a messenger should be dispatched immediately. Gadadhar sent Srinivas himself and told him to hurry. The separation from Lord Chaitanya was intolerable, he said, and he didn't know how long he could stay in this world. Before leaving, Srinivas fulfilled a long-cherished desire to see Lord Chaitanya's associates. He went to the homes of Ramananda Rai, Sikhi Mahidi, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vakeshwar Pandit, Paramananda Puri, Gopinath Acharya, and many others. He also went to see King Prataparuja, but according to the Bhakti Ratnakar, the king had gone away in solitude to lament the Lord's passing. Srinivasacharya's daily activities. The activities of Srinivasacharya can fill volumes, and they have. Several books offer details of his daily life in Vishnupura and Jaigram. In the early morning, he would read from scriptural books, explaining and interpreting them for his disciples. The study of these books would occupy him until 10 o'clock in the morning. Then, till 2 in the afternoon, he would chant on beads in solitude, occasionally worshiping Krishna according to his inner meditation. From 4 o'clock to 6 in the evening, he would perform congregational chanting with his disciples. The form of kirtan for which he became famous is called Manohar Shoy. Some say it is the only authentic classical style that has survived. At night, he used to instruct his disciples and talk with them of Krishna's pastimes. His literary work. It is said that Srinivas composed only 5 songs. He also wrote a commentary studied and respected to this day on the 4 essential verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. His other works include the famous Sad Goswami Astakam. Though his literary work is sparse, its content and style are nectarian. He has left a unique mark on the Gaudiya tradition. Divine Ascension. As the authorized biographers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leave aside the details of his passing from this world, Srinivas Acharya's followers are silent about his disappearance. But although his divine ascension remains a mystery, his life remains an inspiration. Srila Srinivas Acharya ki jai. Dhananjaya Pandit. This is from the chapter 11 of the Adi Leela, the expansions of Lord Nityananda, text 31. The 60th year servant of Nityananda Prabhu was Dhananjaya Pandit. He was very much renounced and always merged in love of Krishna. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya, Pandit Dhananjaya was a resident of the village of Katwa named Sitala. He is one of the 12 Gopals. His former name, according to the Gora Gonadesh Deepika, was Vasudham. Sitalagram is situated near the Mangalakota police station and Kaishchar post office in the district of Burdwan. On the narrow railway from Burdwan to Katwa, and is a railway station about 9 miles from Katwa known as Kaishchar. And Prabhupada gives much detail how to get to these sacred places. One has to go about a mile northeast of this station to reach Sitala. The temple was a thatched house with walls made of dirt. Some time ago, the zamindars of Bajaravan, Khasi, and Muliks constructed a big house for the purpose of a temple, but for the last 65 years, so say 1973 minus 65 is, what year is that? 1965, 1908, 1907. Okay, so 118 years ago. The temple has been broken down and abandoned. The foundation of the old temple is still visible. There is a Tulsi pillar near the temple, and every year during the month of Kartik, the disappearance day of Dhananjaya is observed. It is said that for some time Pandit Dhananjaya was in a Sankirtan party under the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he went to Vrindavan. Before going to Vrindavan, he lived for some time in a village named Sankada Panchada, which is 6 miles south of the Mamari railway station. Sometimes this village is also known as the place of Dhananjaya, Dhananjaya Pata. After some time, he left the responsibility for worship with a disciple and went back to Vrindavan. After returning from Vrindavan to Sitalagram, he established the deity of Gaurasundar in the temple. The descendants of Pandit Dhananjaya still live in Sitalagram and look after the temple worship. So one of Krishna and Balaram's 12 cowherd boyfriends appeared in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda's Leela as Dhananjaya Pandit. And now the description of Gadadhar Das Goswami. Now, it is interesting that Gadadhar Das Goswami, Gadadhar Das, is considered an associate of both Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda simultaneously, as we will now hear and understand. Adi Leela chapter 10, the branches of the Chaitanya tree, text 53. Sri Gadadhar Das, the 23rd branch, was understood to be the topmost, for he induced all the Muslim Qazis to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. About 8 or 10 miles from Calcutta, on the banks of the Ganges, is a village known as Endiadaha Gram. Sri Gadadhar Das was known as an inhabitant of this village. The Bhakti Ratnakar, 7th wave, informs us that after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gadadhar Das went from Navadvip to Katwa. Thereafter, he came to Endiadaha and resided there. He is stated to be the luster of the body of Srimati Radharani, just as Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami is an incarnation of Srimati Radharani herself. So two different personalities, Gadadhar Pandit and Gadadhar Das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sometimes explained to be Radha Bhava Duti Suvalita, or characterized by the emotions and bodily luster of Srimati Radharani. Gadadhar Das is this duty or luster. In the Gora Gonadesh Deepika, verse 154, he is described to be an expansion of the potency of Srimati Radharani. He counts among the associates of both Sri Gaur Hari and Nityananda Prabhu. As a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was one of the associates of Lord Krishna in conjugal love, and as a devotee of Lord Nityananda, he is considered to be one of the friends of Krishna in pure devotional service. Even though he was an associate of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he was not among the cowherd boys, but was situated in the transcendental mellow of conjugal love. He established the temple of Lord Chaitanya in Katwa. In 1534 Sakabda, corresponding to 1512 AD, when Lord Nityananda Prabhu was empowered by Lord Chaitanya to preach the Sankirtan movement in Bengal, Sri Gadadhar Das was one of Lord Nityananda's chief assistants. He preached the Sankirtan movement by requesting everyone to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and Prabhupada instructs and reminds us this simple method of Sri Gadadhar Das can be followed by anyone and everyone in any position of society. So it's very important that we are always aware that our responsibility is to request people to chant Hare Krishna. You can do it. It doesn't cost any money. It's free. You have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain. There was one kind of hipster in Washington Square Park, and he came by and he was looking, and I say, I have in the car, no, man, I'm not religious. Give it a try, you know. That doesn't cost any money. You have nothing to lose, and you have everything to gain. Okay, man, can I jam with you? And he sat down and chanted for 45 minutes. This simple preaching method of Sri Gadadhar Das can be followed by anyone and everyone in any position of society. One must simply be a sincere and serious servant of Nityananda Prabhu and preach this cult door to door. Door to door also means person to person, or one person after the next, one person, then the next person. When Sri Gadadhar Das Prabhu was preaching the cult of Hari Kirtan, there was a magistrate who was very much against the Sankirtan movement. Following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gadadhar Das one night went to the house of the Qazi and requested him to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Qazi replied, "All right, I shall chant Hare Krishna tomorrow." On hearing this, Sri Gadadhar Das began to dance, and he asked, "Why tomorrow? You have already chanted the Hare Krishna mantra today, so simply continue." In the Gaur-Ganodesh Deepika, verses 154 and 155, it is said, Sri Gadadhar Das is considered to be a united form of Chandrakanti, who is the effulgence of Srimati Radharani, and Purnananda, who is the foremost of Lord Balaram's very dear girlfriends. Thus, Srila Gadadhar Das Prabhu was one of the associates of both Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. The Samadhi of Gadadhar Das Prabhu, which is in the village of Endiadaha, was under the control of the Samyogi Vaishnavas and later under the direction of Siddha Bhagavan Das Babaji of Kalna. By his order, Sri Madhusudan Malik, one of the members of the aristocratic Malik family of Nairakeldanga in Calcutta, established a Patavati monastery there in the Bengali year 1256 AD 1849. He also arranged for the worship of a deity named Sri Radhakanta. His son established the Gaur-Nitai deities there in the Bengali year 1312, 1905 AD. Thus, on the throne of the temple are both Gaur-Nityananda deities and Radhakrishna deities. Below the throne is a tablet with an inscription written in Sanskrit. In that temple, there is also a small deity of Lord Shiva as Gopishvar. This is all described on a stone by the side of the entrance door. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Thank you all very much. Shri Gopastami Maha Mahotsav ki jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.